I want to ask you something. Have you ever tried to have a simple conversation, to be real with someone, to share something that mattered to you that was more than small talk? But instead of the other person leaning in, they just nodded, maybe looked away, and changed the subject? In that moment, you might have felt like if your gut was punched and awkward. It's unsettling because you weren't just trying to talk, you were reaching out and it didn't land. That's happened to me, so I understand how you might be feeling. In that silence, you might have thought to yourself, what just happened? Was it too much? Does what I have to say matter? Do I even belong here? As you start questioning yourself and feeling awkward, you make yourself small. And the next time you're near that person, or let's say later in that evening with that person or those people, you don't say much. You just stay quiet and nod because you don't know if what you're going to say is going to be received. This feeling, that's what we're going to talk about today because that reaction that you had, it was your awareness, it was your soul trying to tell you that something was off. And guess what? That something wasn't you, but it is how we've been taught to speak and communicate. It took me a while to understand this, but here's what most people don't know. Only 7% of communication is words. The other 93% is tone, presence, and energy. So if your voice isn't lined up with your truth, they may not hear you. If you're making yourself small, they may not hear you because you're much bigger. So then they won't feel you. If you've ever felt that type of disconnect, you're in the right place. I'm Cindy, and this is where soul meets science and everyday truth. So be sure to hit the subscribe button because we're going in deep together. What I shared with you, maybe you did know it, but sometimes there's a gap. There's a gap between what we know in our mind and what we feel in our heart. So you may have known that words are only 7% of communication. You may have known it, but maybe you're not feeling into it and still not allowing your full presence to be felt. Another thing that happens is that we're often in our mind space and not always in our heart space. And when we're in our mind space and not necessarily our heart space, it is difficult for us to be felt, for our energy and for our soul and our largeness to communicate because we're so stuck in the head and it's over intellectualized and not enough connection through the heart, through the spirit. I'd like to share with you about the moment just before I gave my TEDx talk last year on the power of recognizing potential. When I came on stage and I saw the audience, something in me said, no, no, Cindy, this is not the space for slides. This is not the space for your usual, yes, I said it, your usual headspace. Coming from the background of academia and speaking in a very structured manner, I had a moment of nervousness, questioning myself when that inner voice said, no. But I followed it. I did not show my slides. I spoke from the heart. Yes, I did have a memorized script, but I didn't say it in full order or exactly as it had been memorized. And I did not follow the order of how the slides were going to come through. I followed it the way my heart led me to speak the words. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it right, if I was going to forget something. And I wasn't perfect. It wasn't the most perfect of TEDx talks, but it was an impactful TEDx talk because it came from the heart and not the headspace. And what I'll never forget is that after the talk, during a break, I went to the women's room. And as I was there, women came up to me and they said to me, "Oh my goodness, Cindy, when you were sharing your story, it's like if it was my story. It was like if you were speaking my story through your mouth." Then I had another woman come up to me and say something similar. What I realized was that when I spoke from that heart space and shared a story that was my story, but it could have been anybody's story, and it was truly genuine, people connected. If I would have just gone through my slide deck, yes, there would have been some people that may have connected, but it may not have been impactful because I would have been pointing at slides showing data versus focusing on the story. Since then, I've changed my approach to how I communicate, and I've helped other people find their voice again. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a friend message me frantically saying, "Cindy, I'm on the short list to give a TEDx talk. Will you help me?" When I was helping him prepare, I remember telling him, "You've given me a lot of data, and that's great, but I'm not understanding who you are and why this matters to you and why this should matter to other people." And at first, he looked at me like, "But isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Give the data?" I said, "Yes, but give it from a place of the heart." So, how do you speak in a way that's just not from the mind? One, speak from your lived story, your process, your truth. Some people, yes, they will welcome it. Some people will not. Those people aren't for you. The thing is, we often want external validation. We want everybody to like us, everybody to want to listen to us. It doesn't work that way. Be okay with that. When you're okay with that and still speak from your story, your process, your truth, without that need for external validation, you connect to what is real and to people who are genuinely interested in you, will listen to you, and will receive you. When you are coming from that inner place, it's one of the most beautiful places to connect with people from. So speak from what you've actually walked through. That's where trust is created. That is where connection flourishes. Two, before you speak, before you walk into a room or respond to somebody, pause, breathe. You don't need to jump in and immediately respond. Have you heard of the saying, listen to understand, not to respond? The thing is, most people listen to respond, not understand. But if you can just pause and breathe, pay attention, then what you will say, what will come out of your mouth, will be more thoughtful and genuine to you because it's coming from that inner compass, from that place of understanding, not just responding. Because when you listen to simply respond, sometimes the response is really about being loud. Maybe somebody will pretend to listen, but they won't really internalize it. Ask yourself, what do I want to convey? What feeling do I want to express? And that's what you respond. Because in that little pause, that's where your energy will reset. People will feel it. So then when you speak, it's going to come from a much different space. Three, let it move through you. You're not here to perform. You're here to transmit. Transmit what you're feeling. Transmit what you're thinking, not put on a performance of having to be a certain way. We all wish to be clean, polished, and perfect, but the beauty of communication, the beauty of people, the beauty of life is actually in the imperfect, in that moment of truth and what is genuine. That is more powerful than the most perfectly polished headspace talk, speech, or conversation. When you stop performing, but rather speaking from that place, your voice, it carries power. resonance and connection. When you're trying to impress people or be too impressive, that's what creates disconnection. We've been taught to say the right things, and in saying the right things to impress people, we forget what's real. Connection doesn't come from perfection, it comes from presence. So if you've been wondering why your conversations aren't landing, your messages aren't landing, why people are not responding, some of them may not be interested and they're not your people, or because you are withholding your power, because your voice is still tucked in behind old habits and programming. Let your voice out. Let your spirit out. Let your essence out. Drop the pressure. Speak the truth. Let people feel you. Those who are meant for you will connect with you. Those that are not, let them go. That's your power. That is your connection. That is how you're heard. For those of you who have been following the channel, you know that we close with a meditation. For those of you who are new, it's something that I recently started to do. I'd like to invite you, if it feels safe, to close your eyes or soften your gaze. What we're going to focus on is connecting and grounding the voice of our soul. I'd like to invite you to take a couple of deep, clarifying breaths at your own rhythm. As a reminder, the reason why we take breaths is so that we can bring some harmony to our nervous system. Breathing releases the feel good hormones. Make sure that as you breathe, you expand out the belly. As you're breathing in, this is how you start to settle the nervous system. As you're doing this, imagine yourself deeply grounded into Mother Earth. Grounded, strong, and connected. And as you're doing this, visualize yourself anchored in your power, in your truth. Visualize yourself surrounded by people who love you, who support you, with whom conversation flows easily. Imagine yourself in this space with a powerful voice communicating, speaking to them and them speaking to you, and both of you or all of you, depending on how many people you see in your visualization, communicate with truth, love, and power. Now feel into your body what it feels like to be seen, to be heard, to be received. Feel it in your body. Feel it deeply. And as you're feeling this, repeat silently or say out loud, my voice is enough when it's true. I don't have to perform to be powerful. I am safe to be felt. I am safe to be heard. What I have to say matters. Let that settle in. Continue breathing in and out, in and out. And as you're doing that, send your breath further down, down, down into earth. And as you're visualizing yourself in this beautiful space by people who see you, who hear you, who empower you, and who you do the same back to, keep on breathing and send that visualization down, 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 down into Mother Earth so that it's deeply anchored. Keep on breathing slowly and stay in this space as long as you would like. Let it become part of who you are. And as a reminder, the reason why we do this is because the subconscious mind doesn't always understand the difference between what is real and what is not. So when you start to have these visualizations in your meditations, your subconscious mind starts to recognize it as a truth, particularly when your body is in a calm state, which is why we breathe. If this episode resonated with you, be sure to drop a comment below and say what's one thing you're ready to say out loud from your soul. If you've been on a journey of healing or reclaiming your identity, I recommend Life Beyond the Disease. If you're ready to stop holding back and own your voice, the power of recognizing potential is your next step. There's links in the description below. There's also a couple of free ebooks, and I do offer one-to-one soul clarity sessions. Everything is available in the description below. Until next time, make it a great day.